we are short a chairman and we are short a vice chairman. So the last man standing is myself, and I'll be running the meeting this evening. And to that point, Cynthia, if we could have a roll call.
Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present, with the exception of Chair Beer and Vice Chair Burston, who both have an excused absence tonight.
Thank you. Next item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll go ahead and do that. If everybody could stand and for the flag.
1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next item of business are public comments. This section of our agenda is public comments are invited on non-agenda items. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, we invite but do not require you to state your name for the record. The Harbor Commission has the discretion to extend or shorten the speaker's time limit on non-agenda items, provided the time limit adjustment is applied equally to all speakers. As a courtesy, please turn your cell phones off or set them in silent mode to stop the interruptions. All right, are there any non-agenda item public comments this evening?
Good evening, Commissioner Scully, members of the Harbor Commission. My name is Paige Gosney. I represent Susan Jennings. Somebody you may have heard from Ms. Jennings. She sent some emails earlier this week regarding an issue, a dispute that we've been having with the city regarding a neighbor's floating dock that encroaches onto her property about 15 feet. I know you're all property owners. You all use the harbor. You're all familiar with it. You all are certainly sensitive to the issues that users and property owners within the harbor have in terms of neighbors and docks and that kind of thing. And just wanted to come to you tonight, introduce Ms. Jennings and kind of give you a little bit of context as to what our concerns are. She's not somebody who, takes action against the city or against anyone really, unless it really is critically important. This is a dock that's been there for 60 years. Our parents thought about it. The neighbors, it was there. We received assurances from the city, from Mr. Miller, about that if anything had ever, there was ever any work proposed on the pier, on the floating dock, that we would get notice of it because it's so significantly encroached onto her property that, if it was to be remodeled, rebuilt, reconstructed, we wanted to have an opportunity to come before you to express what our concerns are about it and have you as the commission, weigh in on whether it's appropriate to reconstruct it, rebuild it, or keep it there in the first place. We were denied that opportunity. The city, Mr. Miller, we received specific assurances in writing. If there's ever any work proposed on that pier, you're going to know about it because we're sensitive to what your concerns are. And we want to have, ensure that you have a chance to be heard about what those concerns are and see if we can address them. But even aside from, from those separate, representations and assurances from staff that, we would get that notice, we didn't get that notice. Ms. Jennings, walked out in April of last year and realized that the neighbors had installed brand new pilings in the exact same location where the pier was before, had rebuilt the walkway. I think the only thing that had remained was the dock itself, which essentially was just placed back on the new pilings, all of which was done without any notice, without any requirement to any word to Ms. Jennings or the property owner or other property owners about the work that was being done. Aside from it feeling like we were entitled to notice, if anything, just because of the impacts that it has on her property, the Harbor Code, right, specifically requires if you're going to reconstruct a non-commercial pier on Balboa Island, that's an issue, that's a permit that gets referred to the Harbor Commission for a public hearing. When it goes for a public hearing, you get public notice. That's a mandatory requirement in the city's code. When you rebuild a pier that's been destroyed, more than 60% of it, as in this case, that's something that comes before you as the Harbor Commission to weigh in on reconstruction. If I may just briefly conclude, if you have a pier that's going to adversely impact a property owner, it goes to you, the Harbor Commission. We didn't get that chance. The whole purpose of our dispute with the city really is to get before you, to have you weigh in on whether this pier should be there. or should be readjusted, realigned so that it doesn't impact.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
your time.
I'm going to pass Chair Scully. I just have a quick question. The addresses of the two properties, of yours and the neighboring property?
The address of Ms. Jennings' property is 503 Bayfront,
What Bayfront?
Just south or north?
North Bayfront.
You're on 503 North.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the address of the north?
505 North Bayfront.
Okay. And what's the name of the neighbors?
Catherine Green.
Green, and you're Jennings?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments or non-agenda items this evening? Seeing none, we're going to move to the next item of business, which is the approval of the minutes of our November 12th, 2025 Harbor Commission meeting. In your package were draft meeting minutes. I provided some comments back. I think that's the only ones that you received. I'd like to go around the dais here and see if there's any additional comments. Commissioner Miller,
None for me.
Commissioner Young,
None for me.
Commissioner Williams,
None.
Commissioner Steercheck.
None.
Okay. I'd like to open it up for public comment on the draft meeting minutes from our November 25th Harbor Commission meeting. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes with the addition of the comments that I had provided?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
I can second.
All right. There we go.
Motion passes with Commissioner Williams abstaining.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 6 under current business. Tonight we have on the agenda the Restoring Oysters in Newport Harbor and Commensurate Benefits. I'm going to destroy his name if I try to pronounce it, but
Jimmy, you.
Mr. Yu is ill and cannot make it this evening, so we're going to postpone that item, and hopefully we can bring it to our February meeting and get that presentation, one of which I honestly was looking forward to. All right, under current business, 6.2, we have the 2026 Harbor and Beaches Master Plan to approve it. I think we have a staff report from Mr. Miller, and take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. This is, my name is Chris Miller, Public Works Manager. I'll just briefly go over just the highlights of what I usually do on these second meetings. This is the Harbor and Beaches Master Plan. And this is what the Harbor Commission reviews on an annual basis. The Harbor Commission heard or reviewed or was exposed to it in November. We had December, no meeting in December, so here we are in January, and so we are asking that the Harbor Commission provide any comments that I can make adjustments to, and then ultimately consider it for approval this evening, so that it can be forwarded on for further review and approval up the chain. The list is a comprehensive list of harbor-related capital projects, like the big ones, the ones that require planning and foresight as far as funding goes. And it's a big spreadsheet on a small piece of paper, so I apologize for that. There's a lot of columns. I do my best every year to update those columns. I don't have it on the screen because it'd be impossible to see. But there are a couple copies in the front lobby. I do my best to update the dates every year and come up with the best costs that I can come up with for seeing in the future or predicting in the future what things might cost, and kind of using my experience and so on and so forth. So it's meant to get us there. It's not meant to be an exact dollar for dollar spreadsheet per se. I also hope that and the Harbor Commission hopes that we've identified most of the major projects, but That's why the Harbor Commission reviews this every year in case things come up, as they always do, or new things come to light, or maybe we miss something. And so it's a living document that we review every year. It's not in stone. This is not budget, we're not approving a budget, but rather this will help feed items into our annual budget, which, as you know, starts on July 1st of every year. And we would look at this sheet and see what we can do and handle as typically in public works. That's what most of these projects apply to. And we would put those in our plan accordingly. So tonight, I'm here to go into either detail or keep it broad, but happy to answer any questions. I did incorporate the comments that the Harbor Commission provided. Most of the comments are in the very last section, in the potential projects section. So I think I got those right, but please tell me if I didn't. Happy to make those corrections. And happy to make any fine tuning this evening. And then if the commission does decide to approve it, they would incorporate those changes, if any, that we identify in our discussion.
Thank you, Chris. All right, well, I'm gonna come up to the dais right now. I'll start on the other side. Commissioner Svirchek, any questions, comments, anything as it relates to the master plan?
Yes, I was looking at the bulkheads that are coming up in 2000, next year, 2027 for 18 million, which is the West Newport street ends. And then in 28, it's the Balboa Peninsula street ends for 23 million. And then in 2028, the Grand Canal bulkheads, that's 60 million. So we have 40 million coming up and 18 million coming up next year in 23, 20, and 28. So there's basically 100 million coming up, and I was wondering if there's any grant money that would help pay for that.
Certainly, that is a lot. We'll once we identify those projects and get to the design and get to a stage, we'll certainly look for any available funds that could be available. We always do that. We do our best to forecast these projects. Undoubtedly, as we get closer, because we are closer, as we get even more close, we'll probably stagger them. I can't imagine doing all those projects within the same year. But this is my best prediction as of now. But we'll probably bump those out accordingly in the next year or two as well.
The grants are so huge. I mean, the dollar amounts can be really big. It seems that I don't know who actually secures the grants, but it seems like we should have a person or people that all they do is focus on grants, because we have 100 million here. If we just picked up a portion of that, it certainly would pay for, a person or people to be on these grants. I mean, that's significant. So anyhow.
You are correct. And the city has a consultant on contract, on-call consultant, and all they are supposed to be working on are grants. Public Works, library, recreation. So they are our go-to folks, at least the first line of folks to help with that. So we do have that resource available.
Good. The other comment is, I believe that the bridge to Collins Island is going to be redone, replaced, I believe I heard that.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's supposed to be in this budget or if it's in another budget.
It is not in here. It is in another plan. One could make the argument that it should be in this. It should also be in this. That I'm at a loss with that project, meaning I haven't been working on that project. My colleague had been working on that project until he retired last month. So we're figuring out internally who would take over those responsibilities. But you're right. I don't know why it wasn't in this plan, but one can make the argument that it should. I think there was some question early on with that as far as would it be a city project or funded by whomever. I think that's all been worked out.
Good, thank you.
Commissioner Williams, no. Commissioner Yon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Miller. It's like a night chart. Every time I look at it, there's something new appears on it. But I actually have a question on those bulkheads as well. The West Newport and the Peninsula Street are phased projects, looks like, phase 1 and 2. When you take phase 1 of the West Newport, saying the project estimate's 1.62 million, then it says the fiscal year design year would be 2025. So my thought is, should these be updated? Have those already in design? So is 2025 inaccurate, or will that be pushed to this 2026 year? Because you said a lot of these are just really rough estimates, but something like that is happening pretty quickly. I think it would be starting to enter into the city finance committee's budget. Anything that's within a year or so. So where would we say the status of that is, as far as?
It's currently we have a team of folks, my colleagues, who have been looking at that particular line item. So the 2025 is an accurate date.
Okay.
And you didn't ask this, but you referred it with going to the finance committee for approval. If we put it, not all projects, typically projects wouldn't go to the finance committee for approval. Maybe the large ones would, like, very, very, very big ones. But for the small, I'll call this a smaller project, that would just be incorporated into the budget and vetted through the city council at the various stages of the budget
Okay.
process.
And if I read on to the future value cost estimate of 2.5% growth, just do the math for me. I mean, the 18 million is a future growth for a project that starts in 2027.
I cannot do the math for you.
But that doesn't seem right, because if you're growing, if the cost estimate is today's dollars, 1.6 million, and now it's saying in 3 years it's going to be 18 million. I'm not sure if I'm missing something, I'm sure. But then it references the phase 2 of starting in 2030, and that's 15.6 million. So are we combining phase 1 and 2 to get to that net proposed cost of 18?
So forgive me. This is a rough draft of an Excel sheet.
Okay.
That I then pass along to our finance team. I should have hidden those columns that shows. And I apologize, my mistake, for showing the future value cost estimate, because that column is not accurate.
Okay.
And because it hasn't been vetted, the formula just the spreadsheet has not been perfected yet, and I should have hidden that.
Okay. I just thought my math was off, but I'm fine if it was just an omission on your end. That's not a problem.
But even if it was accurate, I wouldn't know how to answer it. It's just not
Okay.
my expertise.
Okay. My other comment was the lower castaways. I know because I was sat on this subcommittee when we put these numbers together with you.
Yes.
We had at that time a swimming pool concept that was on the block site, to say, and that's where the 47 million number came from. So we needed a placeholder. We put a number down there just to have a number, and I know those numbers at the very bottom of those potential projects really are. You could put any number you like, right? It's not anything that resembles reality. It doesn't have to resemble reality. It's just making sure we're aware to keep it on the radar. That's right.
Precisely.
Okay. So 47 million is, off by whoever knows how much, since we're now going through a reiteration for a park project, and it could be potentially probably private funding, probably nowhere near 47 million. So I don't know if that needs adjusting, or we just keep the old number in there and just call it a day.
But our logic was to keep that, you were correct about the placeholder. B, to keep that number in it for lack of any other number. It was a number that at least the pool concept was alive earlier this fall. Now it's evolved. So it's hard for us to keep up with the number because it's not finalized.
And you drive yourself crazy changing the numbers all the time. So that's fine. I just wanted to make sure everyone else was aware of that as well. Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
Just two quick questions or comments, Chris. Number one is when we get in dredge, in the backside of, let me make sure I have the right number here. When we redo the yacht basin, it seems like we're gonna move all those boats anyway, that would be the time to replace some of those piers, but I'm sure you have a different schedule and Swift probably can't do it, so that's more of just a comment on that. And then the other, when I was looking at the CIP here, and I know, and I've heard a few of you speak about it, increased amenities on the harbor, obviously. When super tide hit and you stood at Agate and South Bayfront, or you went to Palm, it was 7 or 8 inches underwater. You're probably well aware of that, but I wonder if we have enough money left allocated to make sure that is elevated and properly resourced. So those are really my only 2 comments.
Thank you.
Or questions, I guess.
You know, I brought up in the last time we were in this topic, you know, that 47 million at Lower Castaways, I mean, I get it's a placeholder, but boy, that's a placeholder. That's a big number. I personally would like to see it reduced, but
This is feedback. This is great feedback.
Sure.
I can delete it and just make it 0, but then would that have more questions, or maybe 0 or keep it? I agree that 47 million just raises
it just,
the unnecessary.
it does.
Mr. Chairman, we do have zeros for like the water taxi. We haven't started putting that number together. It might not be okay to put a 0 for that one.
I don't disagree. I just think it screams
And I
government spending.
understand with you. I agree with what you're saying.
I will make that change in the final version.
Excellent. And then just a comment that I've got is, and this is an overall comment as to how the city is run, and it's so great to see forward thinking, forward looking at our infrastructure. I mean, I've spent 5 days up in LA this last week, and look at the streets up there, look at the curbs up there, the lights up there, the infrastructure up there, and it's just decaying, and how Newport invests in its infrastructure, and it's just such a great city, and it's so important to keep it up. And so I think this is outstanding. I think it's great to talk about it and look at it and see what we're going to do to keep Newport the way it is today. So my hat's off, and thank you for doing that and being part of it. With that said, I'm going to open up this agenda item on the Harbor Beaches Master Plan to public comment.
Good evening and Happy New Year, Adam Leverins. I want to thank Mr. Miller and any staff that has contributed to this. It's a super helpful document. It's kind of like a crystal ball to help, envision things in the future, what's going to happen, what's going on. And as noted, it's a kind of living document, but it's great the level of insight it offers. I wanted to make an observation under public piers, repair, replace. There's categories for last refurbished and estimated useful life after completion. There's also a category in the spreadsheet for completed projects, and I'm curious, like some of the piers that were recently rebuilt are not in the completed list, they're still in the repair replace list, and I'm just wondering if they should be moved. And then potential projects, item C, they had a slide I sent in, if that could be called up. We talked about this last February, so about a year ago. It was talk about a dock, a public dock in Promontory Bay, and some materials have been submitted. I think could be put up on the screen. And that item is struck from the spreadsheet here. As you recall, the original proposal was to put the dock in like what I would call the navigation channel between Basin Marine back to Promontory Bay. And there were concerns about the property owners, that was too restrictive. The 2 stars were suggested as possible public dock locations. And then if you go to the next slide, superimposed on those vacant spots are 2 scale representations. Just scroll down. There you go.
Sorry.
They look almost the same. So that's like a wharf type dock up in Promontory Bay, which I imagine the homeowners probably still would like. But the lower yellow square that's superimposed on an empty space on those docks. And if I understand correctly, that's a public walkway. And I understand we're not gonna talk about a dock in Promontory Bay anymore, but I never heard any reason why this couldn't be considered. And given the grocery store and the restaurants and bars that are close there, it just seems like something that I would either like to hear a reason why not, or have it discussed in the future. And then other items on the potential projects list that I'll just mention for those that are gonna watch this video later. There's the water taxi proposal and the alternative mooring tackle pilot test program. I know Marshall Duffield has talked about a water taxi in the past, saying to add value to the moorings. There's a number of people that don't want to pay a civil servant salary and pension for a water taxi, so I hope that if that's to come to pass, there'll be a lot of thought and discussion put into that, maybe it'd be a third-party vendor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levens. Any additional public comment?
Chair Scully and members of the Harbor Commission, acting chair. My name is Jim Mosher. I believe I commented on this when it came to your last meeting and pointed out that the original spreadsheet of this was something called the Tidelands Infrastructure Capital Plan. And it was created by a city council committee called the Tidelands Management Committee. And they dissolved themselves around time period 2012, 2013. And when they went out of business, they assigned the continuing oversight of this in part to the Harbor Commission and for some of the topics within this, and they assigned the oversight of some of the other topics to the Water Quality Coastal Tidelands Committee, which was actually kind of created as a result of that council committee being dissolved. So in reviewing this, I don't think you should feel obligated to look at everything, because some of it is supposed to be reviewed by the other committee, especially things having to do with ocean beaches, sand replenishment, things of that sort. And in here, for instance, the dredging of the catch basins in the upper bay would probably be a non-harbor item that is supposed to be reviewed by them. The problem is the Finance Committee is supposed to review this in February. There's some doubt as to whether the Finance Committee will still be active at that time. The Water Quality Committee met last week, and they will be meeting again before that Finance Committee meeting, but it's not on their future agenda, so I don't know when those items are going to be reviewed. And then the other comment is and that committee, for instance, has some other projects that do not appear here. As Chris knows, they're considering some rehabilitation, some things around the Newport Aquatic Center and other projects which you would not be totally aware of. And my comment about the lower castaways is in its current, originally it was the Tidelands Plan, now it's the Harbor and Beaches Master Plan. And your interest in the lower castaways is very much appreciated, but they're not actually, it's not in the harbor, and it's not, I don't think, technically tidelands. And in fact, it is technically a park. And I'm not sure, I kind of think that the city has a parks master plan. And I would think that the project like that should be in the parks master plan. And perhaps the Water Qualities Committee renovations on the uplands around the aquatic center would also be on the park plan. But those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosher. Any additional public comments on the master plan projects spreadsheet?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ann Stenton. I'm with the Newport Mooring Association, and I would like to second what Mr. Leveren said. This is a really fantastic document. Thank you so much for sharing it and for the discussion. I apologize if I missed this earlier, but I was wondering if somebody could clarify for me. I see two items under potential projects: mooring helical anchor upgrade onshore and offshore, and then alternative mooring tackle pilot test program. And I was just wondering if we could get some clarity on that.
Thank you, Ms. Stenton. Any additional public comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, any further comment from the dais? Okay, can I have a motion to approve this plan with some of the changes that we discussed? it, as well as, in that motion, let's make sure that we add that it's exempt from CEQA.
Can you, on the motion, confirm what we are changing?
We're changing Lower Castaway to 0.
Okay, anything else?
Not that I know.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll
So,
second.
okay. Let's vote.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right. Under current business, we're going to move to 6.3, and that is our November 2026 Harbor Commission meeting, which is currently scheduled for November 11th. And the meeting coincides with a Veterans Day, which is a city holiday. Harbor Master Blank, is there anything you'd like to add or discuss? Okay. So we need to make a motion to change the meeting. Okay. Is there any comments from the dais as it relates to changing this meeting? Okay. Is there any public comment on the proposed change from November 11th to November 18th for the November 2026 Harbor Commission meeting? Okay. Can I have a motion? A motion to move from November 11th to November 18th, 2026, our Harbor Commission meeting.
I'll move.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's vote.
Motion passes.
Very good. Moving on, under current business, agenda item 6.4, and that is our ad hoc committee updates. The first one is the Balboa Ferry Ad Hoc Committee. I did have a chance to spend a little bit of time talking to Joe Beek, and the ferry, the Beek family and the ferry company has been working very hard on trying to secure grants in the amount sufficient to actually construct new ferries and those to be electric, as well as the charging infrastructure that would need to be put into place to charge the ferries on a daily basis. They were some time ago awarded $2 million through the Carl Moyer program, which is a program that you have to destroy the block of the diesel engine that's in the vessel. So they've had that for some time, and they were awarded $8 million from the Air Resources Board, but getting the paperwork and getting the documentation done was a very long and arduous process, and that I'm pleased to report has been concluded, and they've been awarded $8 million. So they have a total of $10 million of grant money that they're going to now move forward in the architectural phase and hire a marine architect and design to build 3 new ferries that will be electric and brand new. And then once that's completed, they'll move to an RFP and getting quotes to have those built, and they'll make a determination which yard. So I would say there's a good chance that we're going to see an electric ferry in Newport Harbor probably in the next 2 years, my guess. So that is in process. That's in process, and that's the update. Commissioner Stierczek, do you have anything else you'd like to add to that? Commissioner Young, anything? Okay. Moving on to the general plan update, Harbor and Bay Element Ad Hoc. I think we're done with that one. Just my opinion. We sent our final recommendations to the ad hoc committee, and unless somebody disagrees with me, I think this is one we can bring to a conclusion. So, Paul, we'll add that to the agenda for our next meeting. Is that what the process is, or can we kill that today?
You could make a motion to conclude and resolve that, remove that.
Okay, so we'll do that at the end here. Perfect. Okay. I don't know, Commissioner Young, do you have any further comments, or do you agree or disagree?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, cool. All right. Harbor Commission objectives. Obviously, obviously Chair Beer is not here, and I know Commissioner Miller. I think we're going to be bringing something to our next Harbor Commission meeting as it relates to objectives.
That is correct.
Right. So I think that's pretty much the update.
It is.
Okay. Any further discussion as it relates to the ad hoc committees and the plan to eliminate the one for the general plan from the dais here? Any further comments?
We haven't had any since the last meeting, because I don't think we're good.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open this ad hoc committee update to public comment.
Acting Chair Scully and members of the Commission, my name is Jim Mosher. Regarding the need for a general plan update, ad hoc committee, I think you are correct that you don't need that anymore. I did want to clarify that the Harbor Bay element and incorporating any comments that the Commission as a whole may have made on that is being prepared by a city consultant, and the nearly final version that will go to the Planning Commission and the City Council is probably going to be made public within the next week or so. The 24-member General Plan Advisory Committee that I am on is having what's likely to be its last meeting a week from today. And my understanding, I think this is correct, that the Harbor and Bay element in its almost final version going for recommendation to the Planning Commission and Harbor Commission and City Council will be coming to you one last time to review before it does go to the Planning Commission and the Harbor Commission. But I think the intent is for the entire Harbor Commission to look at it, so I don't think you need an ad hoc committee for that. But I do believe it will be coming back to you one more time.
Thank you, Mr. Mosher. That's good news.
And Mr. Mosher, what's the approximate timing of that? When might we see it?
The community development staff is attempting to wrap up the whole thing and get the council approval by June. So,
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mosher.
I just wanted to extend a thank you to Commissioner Scully and Marston. I looked at the materials, the input you had given for the general plan update, and I've attended a number of those meetings. The volume of materials is just immense. And the fact that you two went through and offered such, detailed observations, I just appreciate that somebody found the time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lovins. Any further public comment? Okay. All right. So, based on what we were just talking about, we need to conclude the ad hoc committee for the general plan update Harbor Bay element. Is there any comments on that from the dais at all? Okay, so we're gonna create a motion that's gonna take that off of our ad hoc committees. Is there any public comment on removing the general plan update to the Harbor and Bay element ad hoc committee? Okay, can I have a motion to terminate that ad hoc committee?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, let's take a vote. Okay.
Motion passes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next item of business is under current business is 6.5, Harbor Commission 2024 objectives. Just going to go down the dais here and let's go through the objectives that are still currently in place. Commissioner Yon, Commissioner Yon and Miller, is there anything on number one, the annual review of Title 17?
Yes, we're in full swing of review of items that were introduced by staff in the department, and we had our stakeholders meeting Gosh, it seems like a while ago, October maybe. And as a result of that meeting, we did receive public comment. Our committee is going to refine the information that was heard from that meeting. We didn't have, obviously, a Harbor Commission meeting in December, but plan to have something to present this month, but should have it by February's meeting, which will be a conclusive list of all of which we recommended, the city and the public had vetted, and we received input from the public, made to propose changes, and then have it back to this commission by February's meeting. So I think it's pretty productive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, anything from your end?
Same, I was
Okay.
just thinking, so.
Very good. All right, objective number 2, collaborating with the Water Quality Coastal Tideland Committee. Commissioner Spearcheck, anything to report? Right, neither was I, and now we're getting back to the new year. I think we'll be able to get back into the swing of things from my end. Okay, then we go on to objective number 5, working with staff to identify additional opportunities or harbor services. Commissioner Yon, anything to report?
No report, thank you.
Okay. Number 6, the Harbor Safety Committee participating with businesses and nonprofits. I'll have more to report on that in our next meeting. We've talked in previous Harbor Commission meetings about, should we be doing something on a rental side of people with marine activities permits on some type of safety training or some additional safety education prior to leaving the dock on rentals. So I've been working a little bit on that, thinking about that, and we'll have more to talk about in our next meeting on that. Maybe even agendize that. Let me think that through. That's my report there. Reviewing the Harbor Department responsibilities, department readiness, and effectiveness. I don't have anything further to report on. I think they're doing a great job. Commissioner Williams, anything on your end?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Number 8, working with city staff on an update of market rent to be charged for onshore and offshore moored moorings. Commissioner Beers is absent, so I have nothing to report on that. So we'll continue that one on to our February meeting. And then just dredging, number 10. Commissioner Spearcheck, Commissioner Miller, anything to report on that? Commissioner Miller, anything to report on your end?
No, I think we'll look forward to what Chris has to say on that. So,
I think it's going pretty good. I mean, I watch the barge go out the harbor all the time. So that to me tells me that's a good thing. Okay, that's the review of the 2024 report, Beach Harbor Commission goals and assignments. Is there any public comment on these objectives?
Sorry, Adam Leverins one more time. I'm going back to the Title 17 updates. After we had the stakeholders meeting, none of us at the meeting seemed to be familiar with the current evolution of composting toilets. And I've done some research since then. Before you come back with your final drafts, I might encourage you to do some looking at what's available now. And it seems like it could change a lot of what we talked about. And then I'll tie this into my broken record thing. We all want less human waste in harbor. And I encourage you to restore restrooms to goals and objectives. It's still stricken from goals and objectives. I know in the past it's been a controversial subject, but to just quit talking about it, to me, seems kind of silly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Livers. Any additional public comments on objectives? Okay. There's no further work to do on that, and we can move on to under current business, agenda item 6.6, our Harbor Master update for a 2-month update.
Mr. Miller is sitting in front of the computer. We're just going to go directly to his slides, and he's going to talk about that section, and I'll come back and do the Harbor Master report. Go for it.
Thank you. So I will give a report on the on both dredging projects that are currently in our city right now. This is a chart that I update on a weekly basis, and I updated it this morning. So it shows our progress of Lower Bay dredging. Our current contract, the contractor doing the federal dredging, which is via the Army Corps of Engineers, the ones that we've been working on with for a very long time. They're the ones in this screen right here, and I'm going to jump into the Balboa Yacht Basin dredging, which is a completely different contractor. This website is available for the public, and I'm happy to share the link to anyone. And I also send out an email update on a regular basis every week or two. So if anybody would like would like their name to be put on my email distribution list, please contact me and I'll happily do that for you. The colors on the map describe the progress and where we're at with the project. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we'll start at the bottom, which is green. Green means it's been completed. So you can see the turning basin has been completed, and the area in front of about half of the Balboa Bay Club and Resort has been completed. Most of the area in front of the Balboa Bay Club will be completed in the next few days, and then we'll move our way west into the purple section and tackle that over the next few weeks. This material that we're dredging, all the colors on the screen except for the blue, is material that we are taking to the Port of Long Beach for disposal. As of today, we've taken 38 scows, 38 distinct trips to the Port of Long Beach. And if you do the math using average numbers, that equates to about 53% of all of the material deemed all of the Port of Long Beach material. Okay, so about half of all the material that's supposed to go to the Port of Long Beach has been delivered to the Port of Long Beach. To me, that's quite an accomplishment. And in a very, very small amount of time, since we just started the project in early December. The next part of the project, after we get done with the purple, is to move. I have my mouse on the screen, so you might be able to see it. But is to from basically Marina Park to 19th Street, which is where my mouse is, Marina Park all the way to 19th Street. That material is also going to the Port of Long Beach. However, we need to get there first. So they have to dredge their way in down this channel to get to this material. And so we're figuring out our most efficient way to get to that material so that we can meet the Port of Long Beach's schedule of when their door is supposed to close, proverbially, for us to dispose material at the Port of Long Beach. And that's in mid-May. So there'll be a lot of, this material to dredge here, you might ask, well, where is that material going? That material is suitable for open ocean disposal, and that can be disposed 6 miles offshore, so it's a much shorter round trip. They can really maximize their dredging and hopefully get to 2 scows a day. Each scow holds about 2,400 cubic yards. Those giant scows in the harbor are 3,000 max capacity. You never hit it, but 3,000 cubic yard scows. They normally, with our material, they're filling it up to about 2,400 cubic yards. They do that because they have to transport it and have to make it safe, and you never really get to the maximum capacity of scows anyway. So the blue material will go out to LA3. That's a short run, so to speak, and we're trying to maximize our efforts and efficiencies with that. I think that covers at least the short-term horizon. There's some other components to the project, but those will unfold, particularly dredging within the Newport Harbor mooring field. That will require some coordination, which I've already started with those folks, and trying to get a plan in place for that. But our priority, though, is really to get, our number one sole priority is to get to this remaining Long Beach material over by Marine Park and 19th Street. That's our focus. Happy to answer any questions on this before I move to the Valerie Center.
How much of the J&H field is going to have to be moved to get to that product?
Not very much,
Okay.
if any. Oh, another fun fact, which I will, it'll make sense when I compare it to on my next slide. The capacity of the bucket, and you've seen that bucket while traveling around the harbor. The capacity of that bucket is 24 cubic yards. That is gigantic. Gigantic. That easily fills many dump trucks on the road twice. So it's very big, very efficient. Any other questions?
I have a question on the turning basin. There's the deep water channel goes to the turning basin. I forgot what it actually looks like if you were to chart the pathway. But what I'm seeing here, what has been concluded, is it looks like just the edges out in front of the docks along the complete perimeter of the turning basin were dredged. What about the middle section, or where does that deep water channel, what does it actually look like? I'm curious why it's just the edges and not sort of more and where the boats would be traveling. It doesn't look like they're being traveling right on that very, very edge. What am I missing here?
Good observation. I should have explained that. The turning basin, the entire turning basin, the authorized depth is minus 20 feet. And looking at that graph, and I'm just going to loosely say 85-90% of the turning basin is already at depth or super close to depth. So I can't explain it, but the perimeter of the turning basin, there were some high spots. But even those high spots weren't very high, but they were high enough to where we want to get them because we're there.
And then the other interesting observation is the Rhine Channel, not the Rhine Channel, but out for Marina Park. That's really the balance of that 50% going to Long Beach. It's really that channel that I remember had the most consumable material. The most density of it was kind of out in front of Marina Park.
Yes, but there still is, if you look on the screen, there still is quite a bit of yellow and purple. So I haven't done the math, but I'm just going to say maybe 25%. We've already hit 50%, so maybe another 25%, just round numbers, might be in that yellow and purple area, and then the remainder 25% might be from Marina Park too.
I guess what I'm wondering with the question, is there any possibility we might run out of space in Long Beach versus the material that we have to eradicate?
No, because Long Beach needs infinitely much more material than we are providing, and that's not what keeps me up. What keeps me up is getting all of our material to them on time.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Quick question, Chris. Thank you for this great report. Do we have any contractual obligations to the city of Long Beach, date-wise, that we have to deliver material by? And is there a downside risk? Let's say in construction, there's progress payments or anything like that. I don't imagine we're there, but any risk that we have if we don't hit a certain date?
There isn't anything contractually that says because it was too hard to predict. I mean, the MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, was finalized, in early 25, so they didn't have a construction schedule then. But it does mention that the city shall abide to the Port of Long Beach's construction schedule, and what the Port of Long Beach's construction schedule says, the city shall comply with. So it is indirectly stated that we have to abide by their construction schedule.
Is there any concern that we would have to look at extending the schedule, or we're scooping stuff out to get there, or do you think at the rate we're going, we should be okay if there isn't any hiccups along the way?
It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight, and as we get a plan, we are trying to refine a plan with the contractor to maximize their efficiency, to dredge their way back in there, so that they can maximize their dredging with fully loaded scouts to get back out. But right now it stands that they're going to be tight. But anything can happen in construction. They're still 4 months away. On the Port of Long Beach's side, they could have the same type of construction delays, and they could be a week or two or a month or whatever. They could be off of their schedule, which would work to our favor. But as of now, we are scheduled to make their deadline, but it is going to be tight. I'm hoping to spread that gap as more than it is.
Great, thanks for that update.
Thank you, Chris.
Now I'll jump to the other dredging project. This is the city dredging project of the Balboa Yacht Basin. The same color scheme, the same maps that I update on a regular basis. The green means that the fairways have been completed. The yellow means that the fairway is under construction dredging, and of course the far left fairway is coming next, and that will be the end of the project. This has been a very challenging, I'm going to zoom in just for perspective, maybe that's too much. Zoom in, a very challenging project. One might think, well, why? It's simple dredging, there's not a lot of cubic yardage, but it's the confined space dredging and very precise precision dredging. There's hardly any wiggle room for the large barge to maneuver in each fairway. There's very little room. The operators are enjoying it, but they certainly are on high alert. We coordinating with all the vessel owners. The vessels who overhang into the fairway have to be relocated either within the Balboa Yacht Basin, or our harbor master is working with us graciously to supply all available slips at Marina Park for those tenants who need to relocate, because we don't want to hit their boats and they don't want us to hit their boats. So now, so the positive result of this is that we have many slips are vacant. And to my surprise, a lot more slips than I anticipated have been vacant, or the vessels have been removed in each fairway. Now, when those vessels aren't there, we will happily dredge within those slips. So we're hitting a lot more, we're removing a lot more material than I anticipated, which is really good. All of this material goes to the Port of Long Beach also by coincidence. So we took advantage of the Lower Bays project, and the port gave us, or had some excess capacity, and the math worked out by coincidence, where exactly what we needed to dredge in the Balboa Yacht Basin filled up the delta of what the Port of Long Beach gave us. It worked out perfectly. So we are hustling to get the material to the Port of Long Beach. The equipment that we're using, the scows, remember with the Lower Bay project, I said that the scows were 3,000 cubic yards. These scows are 300 cubic yards. Their capacity is 250 cubic yards. They are taking 2 scows a day, every night at about 5 o'clock or so. You'll see them leave the harbor. And so they're about 500 yards are being towed up in tandem to the Port of Long Beach, and they return about 5 p.m. the next morning to be filled up the next day. The bucket size that we're using inside this marina is a 3 cubic yard bucket, so pretty small compared to the, what did I say, the 24 cubic. So a big difference, but appropriately sized for the Balboa Yacht Basin. Have to give credit, a lot of credit to the tenants. I also send out a broadcast email to all the tenants and other folks and keep them apprised of where we're at. And I really want to commend the tenants for being extremely accommodating and supportive of the project. It's a temporary impact to them, but I've tried to make it the least impactful. And an important note from a boater's perspective is that every Friday night, part of our specs was I wanted the dredger to leave the fairway. So every Friday night, the dredger leaves the fairway and goes in that blue hashed area in the mooring fields so that people can boat on the weekends. And then on Monday morning, he'll come back. So that's working with the public, and the public is working with us. Any questions?
When will this be completed?
A few weeks.
Yeah.
Let's say early February, plus or minus.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Before we get to Paul, Chris, I just have one quick question, and it's a little off topic, but I was at Anduril on Monday, and obviously looked at all the technology, Switchblade, and all the things they're doing, and I know that you entered into a contract with Brink, managing with the police department. Is there any overlay of activities for the harbor that are included in that Brink proposal of managing? Because when you look at the capabilities that are available drone-wise to monitor the harbor and even compliance and all the rest of it, did that ever come up in conversations? No?
Good evening, Commissioners. This is Paul McCure, Harbor Master. I'll answer that question to the best of my ability. The arrangement with Brink is exclusive to the police department, but the police department has been generously offering that service to calls for emergency calls for both fire and lifeguards. So they, and one of their demonstrations, they specifically did a rescue in the harbor from the Brink drone. What was simulated was somebody falling off their paddleboard and being unable to, falling off their kayak and not being able to report their kayak. So the Brink drone flew to that location, provided telemetry to the lifeguard that was nearby, and then also dropped a PFD, which it had in its nest. So the nests for these drones have all sorts of cool, it's like the Batcave, they've got all sorts of utility stuff. It's operated by the police department. The police department has the contract. The police department has all the knowledge on how to operate it, but emergency calls that come in can be responded to by the police department on the harbor, on the oceans, etc. They're not yet to the point where they can just be doing surveying for the harbor and doing status updates. That's just not part of their
Part of our scope of work, it's not included in that.
Correct. I will tell you that the Harbor Department was gifted as part of its holiday extravaganza 2 small consumer drones that have been used successfully for observing debris and contamination spills. We have been challenged with tracking to the source of some spills, and an aerial survey from the HV helicopter actually led us to ask Santa for some consumer drones so that we can better track to and more quickly track to the source of contamination that's reported to us. And so far, we haven't actually used it in an actual contamination drill, but we will. We've been doing drills. We haven't responded to an actual report of a contamination spill yet, but we will. So we have limited capabilities within the Harbor Department thanks to Santa Claus. The police department has much better and much more effective emergency response capabilities.
Maybe something we as a commission could look at down the road. It's a pretty amazing technology to take advantage of. So.
No question. Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Paul Lake, and I'm your Harbor Master. This is a report on activities in both November and December. As you will recall, we did not meet in December, so that's why I have 2 months of statistics and other things to share with you. As always, this report is constructed in terms of our carrying out our mission, which is to keep the harbor clean, safe, and well enjoyed. In terms of keeping the harbor clean, a huge amount of debris and contamination was collected based on the storms. We also had a tremendous amount of response to potential contamination, including that lovely vessel in the upper image, which is now in our possession and shortly to be removed from the harbor, and the oil well disruption that was in West Newport, which is now concluded. And then lastly, there was a report of a vessel full of diesel fuel in the J field to which we responded, and you see an image there of the diesel in the bilge. So a lot of spill containment, a lot of spill response, etc. Lots of hazmat. We have also taken responsibility for maintenance and observation, et cetera, of the 4 trash skimmers that operate under the city's auspice in the harbor, and that's going very well. The contractor who sold those to us is very responsive and very responsible about ensuring that those trash skimmers deliver what we pay for, so that's great. And as was mentioned earlier in this meeting, there is an active process that you guys authorized back in November of 2024 to conduct some experiments or trials with helical anchor systems. So we have actually deployed, 3 helical anchor systems have actually been deployed in the harbor, 2 by the harbor department, 1 by a private individual. And there are arrangements that have been made for additional deployments to 2 city moorings that will get carried out later this month, and then 1 more private mooring. So we will have a total of 2 city moorings, 2 private moorings, and then 2 private aids to navigation that the city is responsible for, using helical anchors by the end of January. This is the space holder slide that I put in for Chris to address. He's already addressed all these things. I would note that what Chris put up on the screen earlier is the actual live map, which has been updated since I put this together late Monday afternoon. So that map really does get updated frequently, and that is the source of the most up-to-date information. In terms of keeping the harbor safe, we have been conducting late night and early morning navigation light operations to great success. You'll see an image over on the right-hand side lower. That is an electric vessel having just transited under the Coast Highway Bridge with no lights, no navigation, no visible navigation lights. And the patrol vessel took that. You see a small section of the patrol vessel out on patrol looking for exactly that kind of stuff in the lower right-hand portion of that image. All of our patrol vessels, which you see in the upper image, got updates and upgrades in October, November, and December. All are operating successfully, and I just filled out the risk management form and was pleased to report that all of those boats have been hauled out within the last 90 days, which makes the risk manager very happy to know that we are adequately looking after the safety, security, and operability of our vessels. Lastly, the image in the lower left was collected during debris cleanup on 19th Street Pier, and it surprised the harbor safety officer doing that collection to find that that is an edible form of CBD. It was properly disposed of. It was properly reported and then disposed of at Brady Park. In terms of keeping the harbor well enjoyed, new signage went up on all of the public docks. The signage was changed from whatever the particular public pier was to now public dock to be in compliance with the California state regulations related to regulating or limiting angling. It is not permissible to limit angling at a public pier. It is permissible to limit angling at a public dock. Previously, all of the signage at all of the public docks said public pier. So in a last minute scramble at the end of the year, we had to change all of the signage to say Emerald Street Public Dock rather than Emerald Street Public Pier, but it was accomplished by December 31st. Great support from friends at Public Works. The Christmas boat parade took place, was very successful, better participation than in years past, more participation, bigger participation, more well-decorated participation, and thankfully no major incidents. We have had additional engagement with the Coast Guard on unpermitted charter vessels and their regulation, and that is all going very well and much to the advantage of permitted operators here in the harbor. And we did unfortunately have to file a report with the Newport Beach Police Department after threats were made against harbor safety officers for carrying out their duties in the harbor. It was a really disappointing experience to come in contact with that well-known harbor user, and it was unfortunate that he chose the path he did. We responded appropriately. And then lastly, we did impound a repeat offender at the Emerald Street PD you see that in the lower right-hand corner, that purple tag is an impound tag for somebody who just completely disregarded the rules and regulations associated with use of the Emerald Street public dock and thought we weren't paying attention. I'm here to tell you we are paying attention. Lastly, the lower left image is the Harbor Master's personal vessel, which was pressed into service late in the game as the caboose / Santa boat for the parade on Wednesday night. Lots of odds and ends to share with you. Obviously, you are familiar with, or you should be familiar with, the State Lands Commission letter on tidelands management, which was issued in mid-December. It is now posted on the Harbor Department's website as well as elsewhere on the city website, and I expect there will be discussion of the direction from the State Lands Commission at the City Council planning session, which is taking place on January 31st. I think it's next door. I don't think it's in this facility. I think it's in the community room next door. We have updated training materials for our harbor safety officers, and that's going very well, very engaging, very active, etc. And it's now being used by some of our colleagues in other facilities and other agencies that have seen what we've done. I'm very appreciative of it. I performed at great length an analysis of abandoned vessel abatement and grant status here, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. It's in great detail in your written report. And then lastly, the week between Christmas and New Year's, the Deputy Harbor Master and I did a physical survey. We went on a field trip to go observe conditions at the entrance to the San Diego Harbor, and we observed what you see in that lower right-hand image. There are 6 separate vessels that have been languishing, abandoned and sunken on the breakwater into the San Diego Harbor entrance. Neither the Port of San Diego nor the City of San Diego have resources or even appropriate laws to be dealing with the situation that has developed just outside the harbor entrance at San Diego and results in these boats breaking loose during adverse weather conditions and then subsequently being abandoned. Those vessels have all been there since I first observed them in July. And they remain, and they continue to remain, and they continue to be hazards. The upper portion of your the screen there is just a chart that I prepared in response to some well-meaning but uninformed comments that were made by a member of the public on the city's response to abandoned and derelict vessels in Newport Harbor. I point out that since having taken responsibility for being the harbor master, those vessels were removed in those years. So 4 in 2020, 42 in 2021, 6 in 2022, 24 in 2023, 32 vessels in 2024, and then only 5 last year because we ran out of money. And then the total value of what's been removed, the cost for having removed all that is more than $500,000 in those 5 years, 6 years. I give you some averages and then just more information on what it actually takes to remove those vessels. I also pointed out to the public, the person who made the public comments, that it is a challenge to get vessels that have been abandoned in our harbor removed because they are property that belongs to somebody else. We need to go through the proper process to gain the right and not take away somebody's private property that plans to do something with it. But once it has been truly abandoned or surrendered, we can do something about it as long as we have funds for it. You heard me go on at length about the SAVE grant application process and our successful award of $100,000 for the next 2-year grant cycle, all of which we could spend this month based on the inventory of abandoned vessels that we have in the harbor and would like to get taken care of. I point out in my staff report at length some statistics about the other grant recipients, including the fact that there is a 62% to 38% split between the SAVE grant awards that were awarded in Northern California to Southern California. So only 38% of the funds are coming to agencies in Southern California to deal with this. We were the only agency in all of Southern California to earn the top grant award. The only other 2 agencies to earn top grants were Richardson's Bay and Contra Costa County Sheriffs, both of which are in Northern California, and also, no shade on them. They have their own issues to deal with up there. The only other agency in all of Orange County to receive any any funding through this grant cycle was the city of Oceanside, and they only received $8,000. So no other agency in Orange County, in all of Orange County, has state funding for abandoned vessel abandonment. We are the only one other than Oceanside. San Diego has $100,000 split between the Port of San Diego and San Diego lifeguards. The LA County Sheriff has $44,500, and the city of Redondo Beach and the city of Long Beach also have $50,000 each. The reason I bring up the LA County Sheriff's is I was contacted by a local resident who has an interest in a cove at Catalina Island, which is in the jurisdiction of of LA County. There was a vessel abandoned and sunken in that cove, and the local resident reached out to me to say, hey, can you help us? Can you do something about this? And I said, well, it's not Avalon's jurisdiction. It doesn't look like the Catalina Island Conservancy is going to do anything about it. It doesn't look like the Santa Catalina Island Company, who is the landlord in that cove, is going to do anything about it. Well, the LA County Sheriffs have $44,500 to do something about it. You should reach out to them and see if they would do anything about it. And I don't know what the results of that would have been. I haven't been to that cove to see whether that vessel is still there and abandoned or not. But that's what drove a huge amount of research in late December about abandoned vessels in Southern California, and the fact that Newport, I can honestly say, is doing far more than any other agency in Southern California about abandoned and surrendered vessels in our harbor. Speaking of that, this is the details of that. So there you go. I just enumerated all of those. Sorry, Ashley. I put these slides together last week, and sometimes I forget things. The image on the right-hand side, I've been contacted numerous times by numerous people about the particular vessel of concern in that image, which has furled sails that in the severe weather have come unfurled. That vessel is in impound by the Orange County Sheriff's Harbor Patrol. It is their vessel, and there is not much we can do about it other than call attention to the fact that that vessel is bothersome to people in the harbor. To date, they have still not done anything. That vessel has been in that condition for more than 2 weeks, and to date, they have done nothing about it. And I have no idea what their plan is for removing that vessel from the harbor. Another harbor constituent reached out with a big letter of thanks and appreciation for the lights that were installed in May and July of last year on the private aids to navigation. It was a long, challenging project that is detailed or summarized in your report, your written report. The letter was very nice from this appreciative harbor constituent who asked me about what was the process by which we finally overcame that and what's being done about it, and oh, by the way, could you put some over there too? So we have embarked on a survey to evaluate the lights that were implemented and repair and replace when necessary. There are 27 authorized locations for lights on private aids to navigation out there. It looks like about 13 of them need some attention at this point, so we'll get on that by the end of the month. And then the most amusing call of the month, which actually came in the form of an email, the title of which included the mayor's name, asked on the Monday, no, it was probably the Friday before the boat parade was going to start. Boat parade starts on Wednesday. On the Friday before, the author of the email was asking for permission to anchor the platform that you see in the lower right-hand image for the 5 nights of the boat parade, so that he could throw promotional parties serving alcohol on that platform and have his guests observe the boat parade. And he wanted to do that first in one of the designated laydown areas that are being used by the dredging projects, and I told him that was not possible. And then he wanted to do it specifically in the public anchorage in the east of the harbor, the east public anchorage, and I explained the rules and regulations associated with use of that, which include operability of the vessel and a resident aboard the vessel at all times, and a limitation of 72 hours. And that was not That was not to his liking. He wanted to leave it there unattended for 5 nights of the boat parade. So he agreed not to do that without a permit. And he was interested in applying for a permit the day before the parade began, and I told him that it would not be, we would not have sufficient time to evaluate the engineering and safety associated with his platform with the manufactured home on it. Insufficient time to come back next year. A very amusing set of communications with that promoter. Statistics. Here are the statistics from November. 2,100 cases or calls for service, 1,957 of which were mapped. We had pretty good coverage throughout the harbor. Here are the same statistics in December, not quite as many, and surprising given how much effort we put into the boat parade, but that's just how the calls played out, and some of that may have had to do with inclement weather and just an overall lowering of activity on the harbor in December. Here are the statistics for the entire year. A total of 26,513 calls for service, 23,482 of them have been mapped, and I think the heat map shows pretty good coverage throughout the harbor. I call your attention again to the fact that August was a particularly busy month, and it was just an interesting anomaly in our statistics. We were prepared for that, for similar calls for service levels in this calendar year. The harbor amenity map, the usage in October, November, and December all tracked with previous years, so we're getting good use out of that. It continues to be updated, and we will continue to update it as things change. Most recently, it has been updated to reflect new and upgraded public dock configurations. The permit activity for all of 2025 is graphed in this pie chart as compared to the previous year in 2024. Lots more permitting activity in 2025 than 2024, and we expect the same for 2026. And once again, just to prove that we don't approve every permit application that comes in across our desk, here are the stats at the end of the year. For harbor events, 88 permit applications were approved, and the permits were therefore issued. 7 were denied, 5 were canceled, 2 remained pending at the end of the year. In terms of the Rhine Wharf, 42 were issued, 1 was denied, 4 were pending. And marine activity permits, 65 were issued, 2 were denied, 5 were still in process, 11 were withdrawn before it went closed. Coming soon will be the mooring permit transfers, which are now handled as of mid-December. Mooring permit transfers are actually handled in the same piece of technology that we do all those other permit applications. So we're pleased that we'll be able to bring you the statistics right out of that Paradigm system for that. More than 25 have already been processed in the new system, and it's looking great and much more convenient for the permittees. No scheduling necessary. You can do it at your own pace, etc. Here was the Anchorage usage in November. Pretty active usage throughout November. Here's the Anchorage usage in December, and that's my report.
Thank you, Harbor Master Blank. Appreciate that. Any questions for the Harbor Master, Commissioner Young?
Great report covering 2 months, so a lot of activity. Just curious about the maps that were denied, under what grounds, just kind of getting a flavor of, not everything gets approved, those that get denied for maybe what kind of cause?
I don't have the specifics at the top or at the tips of my fingers. I could go back and look at them. The most frequently cited reason for denying a map application is inavailability of parking to support the customer load. I know for a fact that one of those permits was denied because the applicant was not qualified and did not have the proper licensing from the Coast Guard to operate the way he planned.
Great, and then I think you asked for insurance at a certain level of insurance for the cities additionally insured on those maps. Is that part of the process? How much insurance limits are you requesting?
Well, it depends on what the business is. If you're just if you are a hull scrubber or a boat cleaner, if you're a cleaning service that has just a one-man shop and you're going around the harbor and you're not carrying passengers, it's a completely different level. I think it's only $300,000 of liability insurance. If you are a large-scale charter operator and are carrying 100 passengers, you gotta have $10 million.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Moon? Questions? Mr. Williams.
Great job as always. Questions, thanks.
Commissioner Spearcheck.
On your grant fundings for moving derelict boats, did you use an outside consultant to secure the grants?
Absolutely not. Our management analyst sitting to my right, your left, is responsible for the grant application, all of the follow-through, the award, and execution of that grant. So Cynthia is to be commended.
Oh, nice work.
Well done.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions, Paul. Was the harbor department involved at all in that, we lost a gentleman at the end of the breakwater who was fishing. Was the harbor department involved in that at all?
The harbor department was asked for a modicum, a very small amount of support to participate in a survey and search, mostly the lifeguards and the Orange County Sheriff's Harbor Patrol. So the harbor department was aware of and participated or contributed to the search limitedly, very, very, very limitedly, on only one day. Most of the effort has been put in by the Newport Beach Police Department, the Newport Beach lifeguards, and the Orange County Sheriff's.
Okay. And the boat that's been impounded by the Orange County Sheriff, I mean, is there something we should be collaborating with them on to move that down the pipeways?
The advice I've given the people who have reached out to me about the matter has been to contact the Orange County supervisor responsible for this district and have her urge the Sheriff's Department to do something about
Well, we're probably going to be dealing with this for a while, man.
it. I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't know what their resources are. I don't know how they operate. I don't know what their priorities are. Me going and knocking on their door and saying, hey, you guys got to do something about this, will get the door slammed in my face.
In your report, the written report, you talked about the Coast Guard. It's going to be, we're going to see more activity of the Coast Guard in the harbor. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So the Sector LA Long Beach has a new unit. It is called the Port Security Unit, PSU, Port Security Unit. And that Port Security Unit is responsible for everything from basically Ventura to Ventura to Dana Point. LA Long Beach, yeah, is Ventura to Dana Point. There's a different group that's responsible for everything south of Dana Point. But they are specifically looking for human trafficking and illicit material trafficking and doing a better job of securing the port. They are supporting, and their mission is to support local resources, including the narwhal that is assigned to Newport Beach, with port security when those assets are otherwise deployed or addressing other matters. So that port security unit is a new unit and doing more recreational boat inspections and evaluations and looking for suspicious activity in the recreational boating community in all the harbors between Ventura and Dana Point. And so we will see them here in Newport. We expect to see them in Newport. And they are in smaller vessels, but they are dressed out in camouflage and the typical military style Coast Guard uniform.
Will they be pulling any boats over and asking for voter cards?
They will not be asking for voter cards because the California, the requirement for the California voting card is a state requirement, and the Coast Guard is not at all interested in that. We have already observed them pulling over recreational voters and conducting inspections.
Okay. And just your comments on San Diego, I mean, it's such a beautiful harbor. I mean, I don't know why they would allow a boneyard to start to build, especially a deep water port. You know, I just don't get that. It's crazy. All right, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Any public comments on the Harbor Master report this evening? Okay. Well, moving on to other current business, to agenda item number 7 is a motion for reconsideration. A motion to reconsider any action taken by the Harbor Commission must be made at the same meeting or the subsequent meeting in which the action was taken, and may only be made by one of the Harbor Commission members who voted the prevailing side. Any motion for reconsideration? No. Seeing none. Any commissioner announcements? Any matters which commissioners would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report? The date for our next meeting is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026, and I adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight.